The Oklahoma City Thunder were one of the more thrilling teams of this past decade. With 3 future MVPs on their roster in Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Russell Westbrook, the young Thunder made a run all the way to the 2012 NBA Finals where
This is one of the biggest nights in LeBron James' career. After 2 disappointing trips to the finals, can he lead his team to a title and forever be known as a champion?
many thought that the Thunder would be championship contenders for the rest of the decade. As we all know, however, OKC would end up trading James Harden, and then eventually Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook would both leave the team as well, and somehow the 2012 Thunder would be the best team that OKC would produce, despite the fact that Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Russell Westbrook were all 23 years old or younger for the 2012 season. And when we look back at the Thunder's young core at the time, everyone remembers Oklahoma City's decision to trade away James Harden. But what if I were to tell you that another trade, one deemed largely insignificant at the time, had just as much impact on this young potential dynasty and could very well have led to multiple championships for the Thunder in the coming years? What if I also told you that the key player in this trade would eventually become a key piece in stopping LeBron James in the 2011 NBA Finals, but for, of course, another team? Because when we go back in time to February of the 2009 NBA season, Tyson Chandler was a member of the Oklahoma City Thunder for 1 day. If he were to remain on that team, Chandler could have been the X factor that the Thunder needed to make the leap from a promising young team to a championship winner. This could have started a potential dynasty. However, although a Tyson Chandler to Oklahoma City Thunder trade would originally go through, this trade would also quickly be voided due to a bizarre set of circumstances and now has basically been forgotten over time. And so what's up, guys? Mike here, and today we are going to look at one of the most interesting voided trades in NBA history, because of course everyone remembers when Chris Paul was traded to the Lakers and eventually the NBA voided that trade, but no one really talks about the time that Tyson Chandler was traded to the Oklahoma City Thunder and then that trade was voided. So today we are going to look at what went down when that trade took place, and we are also going to find out why was that trade voided. So with that said, let's jump into the video. When the Seattle Supersonics became the Oklahoma City Thunder, the team was absolutely terrible, because while the Thunder did have an exciting young trio in Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and Jeff Green, in 2009 OKC managed to win only 23 games, and because of this,
with the 3rd pick in the 2009 NBA draft, the Oklahoma City Thunder select James Harden of Arizona State University.
This draft selection would help cement a future young core for the Thunder. However, in order to achieve the success they were capable of, OKC needed to surround their young stars with quality role players. And so, looking back to the 2009 season, it was clear that the Thunder's top priority at the time was to find a quality center. As to begin the season, OKC started Johan Petro, a man who averaged just 4.6 points and 4-point rebounds for the Thunder in the 2009 season. And while the Thunder would add another center in Nenad Krstić to the team in December, Krstić still would finish the year with a minus 3.4 box score plus minus, which again showed that OKC absolutely was desperate for front court depth. Meanwhile, the New Orleans Hornets were seen by some as a dark horse contender for the 2009 NBA championship, as they were led by exciting young superstar Chris Paul, who was helped out greatly by the tremendous front court of David West and Tyson Chandler. New Orleans even had the 4th highest championship odds to win the finals before the season began. However, by the time January rolled around, the team was sitting as the 6th seed in the Western Conference, which meant, due to a combination of unmet expectations and a very deep Western Conference at the time, the Hornets front office felt that it was time for a change. And so so the team targeted 26-year-old Tyson Chandler as the player they were willing to give up in order to make what they felt was a necessary move. Now, at the time, Chandler was somewhat of damaged goods, as in the 2008 season, he was seen as a very valuable front court piece, shown by the fact that he was the only player in the NBA in 2008 to average at least 11 points, 11 rebounds, and 1 block per game while shooting 60% from the field. These, of course, were solid numbers for a starting center, and while he was not an all-star, Chandler's on-court presence was a very, very valuable asset, especially on defense. However, during the 2009 season, Tyson Chandler did experience some injury issues, and because of this, his play did decline a bit. Suddenly, Tyson was averaging less points and less rebounds per game, and so New Orleans felt that he was expandable for a potential trade. And because of this, the Hornets would actually make a big-time move, a trade that could have rewritten the course of NBA history. I say this because the New Orleans Hornets would send Tyson Chandler to the Oklahoma City Thunder for Joe Smith, Chris Wilcox, and Devin Harden. This was more than a steal for the Thunder, it was basically a home invasion, but somehow, Hornets general manager Jeff Bauer was pleased with this trade, stating, "We were able to get great depth, leadership, and experience by making this trade. We felt we needed to increase our overall play of the front line, and Chris Wilcox is a young, athletic player that can score and fit well in our system." Which, first off, implying that Chris Wilcox was a clear upgrade over Tyson Chandler is a ridiculous statement. Wilcox would average just 7.2 points and 4-point rebounds during the 2009 season and would combine to average just 5.5 points and 3.8 rebounds over the next 4 years before retiring in 2013. Tyson Chandler, meanwhile, would go on to be one of the key pieces of the 2011 Dallas Mavericks championship team, was named the 2012 Defensive Player of the Year, and is still playing in the NBA today. As for the other players moved, Joe Smith was 33 years old at the time and would retire 2 seasons later, and Devin Harden never actually played a minute in the NBA. And sure, I get it. It's easy to look back at a trade and decide that it was one-sided. However, even at the time, this trade was viewed as a terrible move for the Hornets. Yes, Tyson Chandler might have been underperforming, but the return was just nowhere near the price that New Orleans was giving up. As David West stated after this trade, quote, "I don't know if that's somebody we can afford to lose." As for OKC, they were struggling, but the front court help they would receive from Chandler was unquestionable, and really, for the Thunder, this was just a no-brainer. They were practically giving up nothing, and in return, they were getting Tyson Chandler, the perfect defensive center, to pair with a young core that was emerging as an offensive superpower. However, just 24 hours later, the Thunder would lose a man who should have been their defensive anchor, as the trade would be voided in an extremely weird set of circumstances. It is here where we must introduce Dr. Carlin Yates. Dr. Yates has been a respected physician for many years and was even the 2018 NBPA Physician of the Year. And for this trade, Dr. Yates was very important, as during the 2009 season, Yates worked for the Oklahoma City Thunder. However, before his time in OKC, Yates had worked for New Orleans, and in the mid-2000s, he actually performed surgery on Tyson Chandler's toe. It was because of this surgery that Yates would express serious concerns about Tyson Chandler's toe to the team, stating that he believed Chandler would not be able to play long-term due to a potential reoccurring toe injury. Again, Tyson Chandler is still in the NBA today. However, because it was Yates who was performing Chandler's physical, Yates had all the power and would actually fail Tyson Chandler, and that caused a voided trade, which of course was absolutely absurd. Yes, you are hearing this correctly. A doctor was the reason that this trade did not go through. Once the trade was voided, Tyson would be left shocked and humiliated and would go on to say, "This is absolutely crazy. I'm super shocked. This is nuts." He said he doesn't know how long I'll last. He told me, "I have no doubt you can play on it. I'm just saying it could take a turn for the worse if you come down down on somebody's foot or hyperextend it or something, which is true of most players' feet. Basically, all NBA players are at risk of that type of injury. And finally, Tyson Chandler would say about Dr. Yates after the trade, quote, "When I talked to Dr. Yates, I felt like he wasn't telling me the truth. It was like talking to a lawyer." As for Dr. Yates, he has never commented publicly about this situation, which makes things even stranger here. Why did Chandler feel that Yates was not telling the truth? Why did Yates end up failing Tyson Chandler? I guess we'll never really know. Meanwhile, though, life in the NBA would go on, and back in New Orleans, the Hornets would make the playoffs but were bounced by the Nuggets in the first round of the playoffs. As for the Thunder, they would struggle for the rest of the season as expected, but eventually their fortunes would turn around as the very next season, in 2010, the Thunder would finish with 50 wins in what was one of the biggest turnarounds the league has ever seen. With that said, the team still needed a starting center desperately, which meant that in 2011, the Thunder would trade a valuable asset in Jeff Green to the Celtics for Kendrick Perkins. A much worse trade for the Thunder as one, Tyson Chandler overall was just a better player than Kendrick Perkins, and two, the Thunder needed to give up more to get Perkins than they would have to get Chandler. Speaking of Tyson Chandler, as previously mentioned, Tyson would play a crucial role in the Dallas Mavericks championship run in 2011, and fittingly enough, it was also during this playoff run where the Mavericks would play the Oklahoma City Thunder in the 2011 Western Conference Finals. In this series, Tyson's interior post presence was crucial, and he clearly outplayed Kendrick Perkins, as Tyson averaged 8 points and 10.6 rebounds a game, while Perkins, well, he struggled with 4.2 points and 5 rebounds a game for the series. Moving on, Tyson Chandler's presence was even more crucial in the 2011 Finals, as demonstrated by the effect he had on LeBron James. Because when Tyson was off the court in games 1, 2, 3, and 4, LeBron would combine to average 22.8 points per 36 minutes and shot 55% from the field with a 25.2 plus minus. Meanwhile, when Tyson Chandler was on the court, LeBron's averages plummeted to just 12.3 points per 36 minutes with a 44% field goal percentage and a minus 5.4 plus minus. As you can see from this chart, the difference in LeBron's play was staggering, which again shows just how much value Tyson Chandler provided. It is because of stats like these that many people say that Tyson Chandler was the X factor for the Dallas Mavericks during the 2011 season, which has to beg the question, could Tyson Chandler have been the same force for the Thunder if this trade had been finalized? Also, with that in mind, would Durant, Westbrook, and Harden all still be together, or at least have stayed together for a few more seasons? Well, in my opinion, if the Thunder had Chandler in 2011, they very well could have reached the finals, as again, Tyson Chandler did outplay Kendrick Perkins, and overall, Chandler was just incredible on defense that season. And as for the 2012 Thunder, the team that lost in the NBA Finals, they of course would have been a much better team with Defensive Player of the Year Tyson Chandler. So when you combine this with the fact that the Thunder would not have traded Jeff Green for Kendrick Perkins because they already would have had a center, which would have meant that Jeff Green could have been traded for a better player than Kendrick Perkins, we can clearly see that already in 2011 and in 2012, the Thunder would have had drastically increased odds to win the championship in both years. You have to imagine that if OKC had already won a championship with their young core, they would have been much more hesitant to make a move and trade away James Harden. And speaking of Harden, it should be noted that the Thunder's record would largely go unchanged if they acquired Tyson Chandler in 2009, as Chandler would actually miss a large chunk of the rest of the season due to injury. Now, this does give short-term credit to Dr. Yates' diagnosis at the time, but as we've seen, Tyson Chandler has gone on to have a very long and healthy NBA career. So there we have it, guys. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, make sure to leave a like. It helps out a ton. Also, comment down below what you think of this story, if you think the Thunder would have won a championship and if you think Harden would have stayed. I just think this story is absolutely insane, and I never really hear anyone talk about it. I mean, again, Tyson Chandler was a huge part of the 2011 Dallas Mavericks and was the 2012 Defensive Player of the Year. If he was on the Thunder, that could have changed everything. But with that said, if you are new to this channel, make sure to subscribe and turn notifications on so you do not miss a video. If you're already subscribed, thank you so much for supporting. You're awesome. We all know it. And as always, have an awesome day, and cue that music. By the way, if you're still here while the music is cued, here are 2 videos I think you are going to love watching. All you have to do is just click on either one of them on the screen right here. And other than that, guys, again, have a great day and peace.